How I learned Korean before coming to Korea. I became fluent while in Korea. Fluency takes years, and I think true fluency always takes years of immersion, of speaking the language, listening, but I actually became conversational in Korean without spending years, and I started speaking Korean on a very confident conversational level before I started living here. I've been living in Korea for about 5 years, and I worked in Korean companies for more than 2 years only in Korean, writing business emails, doing presentations in Korean, working with engineering terms. I was working in a pretty big supercapacitor manufacturer in Korea, and all the time, past 5 years, I've been speaking only Korean. I've been dating in Korean. Most of my life actually is happening in Korean these days. But I actually started living in Korea because I could actually come here. I could find a job. I could find friends just because I actually learned Korean before I came here. So in this podcast, I'd like to share my story and the mistakes that I made and the right moves that I made so that you can avoid mistakes and you can even use my method for learning Korean. I think the difference between my method for learning Korean and other foreign languages is that my method is, sort of speaking, scalable, which means that it's not a unique story that happens once. It's the method that actually proved itself. I helped a lot of people to start speaking Korean on a conversational, even close to fluent level. And I did actually use the same approach, not only for Korean, but also for other languages. And basically, this approach is scalable. It does not require a special talent. I think that talent can be actually developed, if you ask me. It does not require living in the country, having some kind of advantage, So the only thing that it requires is a structural plan that I'll help you to create in this podcast. So the very first idea of learning Korean and mastering it on the fluent level came to me when I was a foreign student in China. And I traveled to Korea once in 2016. And on the first day, I just realized, oh my God, I just want to live here. I want to study here. And I wanted to drop out from Chinese university and come to Korea and study in Korea. And I tried to do that. I tried to get a scholarship to study in Korea, but I was accepted by the university, but rejected by the scholarship. So basically, I didn't get a scholarship and I still had to study in China. And I knew that actually if I want to live, I started getting this dream of living in Korea, moving to Korea. And I knew that if I want to actually start living in Korea, I need to find a job. And if I want to find a job, I need to start speaking Korean. I need to learn Korean before I come to Korea. So it was my plan. I had about 2 years when I had this plan. I had about 2 years left in China. And after those 2 years, my plan was to come to Korea and to start living in Korea, working in Korea, and building my life here. So this was my plan. So I didn't have any advantage of studying in Korea but I'm going to be actually giving you more details on what I actually tried. So the first thing that I did was obviously what all of you will do is the first thing, checking out some YouTube videos, right? So the YouTube videos, 20 phrases to, impress a Korean person, something like this. And then they didn't work because it's really unsystemized. Then I tried different resources, there are resources like Talk to Me in Korean class or Korean pod or whatever. So there are different websites, different video courses. And all those things actually looked really good and they had those merits, but it wasn't really systematic. It's just I was investing a lot of time into my learning, but I wasn't feeling like I was moving forward. And I'll explain in a second what to me now moving forward actually looks like and how you can actually measure whether you're moving forward with the materials that you're using or not. So I tried a lot of video courses. I tried a lot of textbooks, but those textbooks were kind of unsystematic and addressing just one area, one aspect of the language, pure grammar textbook or just vocabulary list, and I tried all those things. And then I almost accidentally, I decided to take a class in China. My very first class for learning Korean was in Chinese. At that time, my Chinese was conversational, kind of close to fluent, but not fluent enough to learn another language. So I remember on the first day, there were like 30 people in the classroom, all Chinese and one foreigner. And it was like there were so many people that they didn't even have chairs, so they had to like bring chairs from other classrooms. And yeah, and so it was like there were like a whole bunch of videos there, like screaming and stuff. So it was a 3-month course. We would have like couple classes, I think on weekends, couple classes a week. And it was really structured, it was really good, and I actually understood more than I thought. I pretty much understood everything. And it was a 3-month course, and you remember on the first day I said there were 30 people, right? On the last day, there were actually not about like 3 people, including me. Me and 2 other Chinese girls. So there were like 3 people, so the survival on that course was really low. The course was really good, and it actually kind of it helped me to realize how to learn Korean in a better way. In short, I realized that I need to take classes. I need to take classes to learn faster. And so this is kind of in short what I realized. So basically I was going through that process, and I forgot everything. I took that 3-month course, and I kind of started forgetting a lot, and I slacked back to my old routine. I started learning Chinese again, and it kind of, the knowledge slowly but surely a little bit kind of disappeared. It didn't disappear completely because I still remembered a lot of theory, but I didn't have any kind of skill to show, like I studied for a long time, but I couldn't say anything. I just was kind of book smart. So that was what happened. And I started learning with Yonsei University textbooks, all the Yonsei University textbooks, the Chinese version. So every Korean word would have a Chinese translation. Every grammar explanation would be explained in Chinese. The teacher, everything was explained in Chinese. And this was the process that I went through. It was really hard. It was a great experience of learning one language in another foreign language. After that, I think I kind of almost took like 6 months off from learning, and took a long time off, and then I decided to learn, quote unquote, by myself and review what I learned before, and it didn't work. The reason why it didn't work is because, a lot of people, especially me back then, like when I was a foreign student, I lived kind of chaotic lifestyle when I was learning Chinese. I was working part-time, I was having my studies, and I had a lot of things going on, and I couldn't organize myself even to learn for enough time. And there is another thing about Korean was that the biggest thing that stopped me at the very beginning it was the myth that Korean language is easy. Many people think that. It's actually, Korean is as hard as Japanese and Chinese, and sometimes I think it's even harder. And people think that, Korean is easy because it has alphabet, and I think that Korean is actually more difficult precisely because it has alphabet. And the reason why is because there is a certain thing which is called conjugation in Korean, and the conjugation in Korean happens in a different way. It's kind of different. The reason why it's different is because one syllable merges into another syllable, and there are like merging rules, conjugation rules that you need to memorize, which kind of remind of mathematics and mathematic laws, because they have a lot of logical sequences that you need to memorize. But the biggest problem is usages, because I think Korean got its popularity just recently, and there are really no good materials that can explain, and no good resources that can explain every single grammar and usage and differences. There are separate videos on YouTube which are pretty good, but they're so unsystematic that they actually don't really bring you to any kind of level. Like if you even like watch 5 or 10 hours of those videos, you don't necessarily get any kind of like speaking proficiency or any kind of level in those. So so basically the problem with Korean was the following. There are a lot of rules, a lot of conjugations. There are a lot of words which kind of like you wouldn't memorize how it was so random. It just felt really random. The words felt really random. The conjugations felt really really complex, extremely complex. And basically I was kind of lost, and I really didn't know what to do. And I decided to retake that one course again, either retake the same course or go to another level. And after I kind of gave up on my self-study for a while, and then I realized, I actually need to do the best step that I can do, and that I think worked for me was I decided to come to Korea during vacation, during my holidays in China. So we would have like 1 or 2 months of holidays, and during that period I would come to Korea, and I decided to take a 5 weeks course at the Yonsei University. the same Yonsei University. This is how I kind of found out about Yonsei University, was from that old textbook. And then I decided to come to Yonsei University and study for 5 weeks. It was much more serious and much more expensive, and much, especially for a student. I basically invested all my money that I earned from my part-time job to study Korean at Yonsei University for just 5 weeks. But here's the thing. This was the most expensive thing, and I think it was life-changing. And there are a couple of things I can say about this kind of course. First of all, there are pros and cons to it. So the first thing that I realized was that, it's really immersive. So the teacher was explaining everything in Korean, and you were kind of half guessing what they were saying. It was really kind of active. But I don't think it worked for everybody, because I studied Korean before, and I even went through a placement test there, so already had some kind of minimum understanding of like alphabet, syllables, reading, grammar. But if people who are complete beginners, like zero in Korean, they would come to Yonsei and they would still, I think, they didn't get anything out of it. Maybe it's just what I'm guessing and what I saw. They didn't get as much value. So even if you decide to take some kind of programs offline, which I actually highly recommend. I highly recommend to do that, because this is just the best, really. It's just like go into a country, studying the language in a target language. Please don't use English for that. If you go to a country, it won't make sense to use English to study the language. So use this immersive method. But if you decide to do so, try to progress yourself as far as possible, not to start at a beginner level, because it will be a little bit of a waste of time. Why would you come to Korea to learn the alphabet, right? Like, you can learn the alphabet and syllables and reading and like simple grammar rules and self-introduction and being able to speak for like 5 to 10 minutes. You can do that on your own. You don't on your own, like taking even like online classes. But why would you do that? Like, why would you come to Korea for that, right? It wouldn't make sense. So in other words, you would get a much better ROI, return on investment, if you don't start from complete scratch on any program, by the way, including my own. I have my own Korean coaching program, including my own. Like, I recommend just do the alphabet, do the syllables, like start learning reading, right? Why would you... so you would get a better ROI. The higher level is, the bigger your ROI is, if you enroll in any kind of program. So yeah, this is what I did. I came to Yonsei, and the good thing about it was immersive. And it was immersive, and it made me realize a lot of my mistakes that I was making. And they had homework. They would give you homework. You need to like practice. You need to write like 5 sentences with certain grammar patterns. It was really great. And the whole experience, just Yonsei University is it's called there are 3 best universities in Korea. It's called Sky. They're called Sky University, Seoul University, Korea University, and Yonsei University. And they're the best, right? And if you come to Yonsei University, I mean, this is just such a great experience, and I would recommend everybody to do that. The bad thing, though, about that program, or not the program, I would say, there is nothing bad about the program. The program is great. Just generally, I just found myself, because I came to Korea and invested to come to Korea to study in Korea, I found myself just surrounded by most of the people are Korean Americans or just Americans on the program. So speaking English every single day, right? And I remember I was just shooting an Insta story and saying, hey, I just realized it's just really hard to find somebody to talk to using Korean. And I tried to push myself, and, practicing Korean as a beginner is really challenging and hard, because Koreans, if your Korean is not good enough, they will be speaking English to you, right? So you have to push yourself so hard, and you should find the right people, and you should train yourself so hard so that you can actually start speaking Korean with Koreans in Korea. It's not as easy as it sounds. As a beginner, even if you come to Korea, it's very hard. I was trying language exchange cafes, which helped me also, expand myself a little bit more. I basically tried a lot of stuff, and I tried to approach people, talk to them, just ask for directions, ask about some different questions, and slowly but surely, next thing I realized was that after that course was finished, I just realized my listening got really good. So because I wasn't during the class, I called those classes, in the bad way, I called those classes like 1-sentence class, because during the class you would have to, you would study 2 grammar patterns, and you would just say 2 sentences, like 1 sentence with 1 grammar pattern. And yeah, I mean, how efficient is that? Like, it should be like immersive and you should be talking for a longer time, but I would call it like one sentence class because you wouldn't get to practice as much. Yeah, so basically I started practicing more and more. Once I finished the course, I realized that my skill of speaking didn't get didn't get much better in comparison to what I expected, but my listening got so good. I remember I was on a 2-hour date in Korean and I just could understand most of what was going on. It was kind of shocking for me. It was kind of this turning point when I realized that I can literally like completely switch to the language, and it was really inspirational for me. Then I started reviewing the same textbooks. It was level 2 already. In China, I studied level 1 on the course and by myself, and then it was level 2. I'm talking about levels from TOPIK Korean proficiency exam. If you know, there are like 6 levels. And so that second level was kind of a short 5-week program, and I went through it when I was in Yonsei University. Then I went to China, and then, I mean, I decided to pursue learning Chinese again. And so I spent all my savings on the new Chinese program, even borrowed money. I spent on a new Chinese program, and it was great. But during that program, again, I just realized that I need to pursue learning Korean again, and then I pursued learning Korean, and then I basically started practicing, started going through the textbooks. And the reason why I was kind of learning two languages at the same time was because right at that point, I started communicating with Korean people so much so that I even started dating completely fully in Korean. And I just basically became conversational. This is when I became conversational. So I became conversational after basically on level 2, once I finished level 2 and reviewed it by myself multiple times. And it was really kind of limited because during that time, I couldn't say what I wanted, everything I wanted to say. So I had to simplify a lot of things. I have to be a caveman in a lot of situations. And but still, I mean, people were really impressed because, you know, I was just a Russian foreign student learning Chinese in China. And then I would just have those short conversations with Korean people. And then other people were thinking that I was even fluent because it was like, it looked pretty confident on the superficial level. So yeah, basically this is what happens. And I started learning by myself. And again, I fall into that trap of not being organized, not understanding a lot of grammar. A lot of things just went wrong with self-studying. And then I just really believe that self-studying works best when you already have kind of classes or pre-scheduled learning sessions and stuff like this. So I re-enrolled again with that teacher, the same teacher from the first course, but we decided to have like online one-on-one classes. So this is what I did. And so I started learning. It was already level 3. And I traveled to Korea a couple times, and I was speaking Korean more and more and more. And some people even started thinking that I was even fluent. And especially at the beginning, I was extremely confident when I was speaking Korean. Then I proceeded studying level 4 by myself. And for level 5 and 6, because I thought that I would take TOPIK exam, I thought that Yonsei University textbooks are really good up till 4-2 textbook. And then I started using the website is called Master TOPIK. It's a Korean website where you can learn Korean in Korean, and it's just like lectures where they talk about Korean grammar, some vocabulary, but it's all in Korean, and it's really good materials for taking an exam. So I would recommend textbooks of Yonsei textbooks or any kind of textbooks, pretty much maybe till level 4. And then if you want 5 and 6, levels 5 and 6, I don't think that they're really that useful in real life interactions. I think it's good to know 5 and 6, but it's more efficient to just go through some kind of test preparation materials and learn this whole grammar package kind of at once, rather than just go take a route of going through textbooks again. So in total, I think to become fluent in Korean, you need to finish 1-1, 1-2, 2-1, 2-2, 3-1, 3-2, 4-1, 4-2, so it's 8 textbooks. The problem with those textbooks is that, especially at the beginning, it's close to impossible to self-study. To be honest, I think that I'll probably get a lot of hate for saying that. I think it's impossible to self-study Korean as a language, and I think it's impossible to study Korean definitely impossible to study Korean with textbooks. Because I didn't do that. I took a lot of courses. I think for Korean only, I took like 3 or 4 courses. And I think that it's impossible to self-study Korean. And it's because it's an extremely complex language. And the usages are very difficult to understand. Even those Yonsei textbooks, although I recommend them, you can like check out Yonsei Korean, but I still think that the explanations that they give for the grammar, they're good in terms of structure, but they're not good in terms of actually explaining things. So there will be a lot of people disagreeing with my approach and saying some case studies of this and that. I think that my approach is very scalable, meaning that everybody can do that. No matter whether you have a talent or you don't have a talent, where you're located, doesn't matter. I achieved conversational level, then I came to Korea after finishing level 4, and then I started taking job interviews, and I still was so far from perfect. I mean, the simplest things I couldn't say sometimes. And but I was really functional to the point that I found a job, and they didn't even ask me to take a Korean exam because I was really good at just speaking. It was really, I could understand pretty much everything, and I could answer questions maybe in a simple language, but I was really confident, and they didn't even ask me to show them any kind of certificate or any kind of thing. So I started working in Korean companies, and in total I worked in 2 companies, and I dealt with a lot of very complex situations when it comes to language usage, and not only writing business emails, but also doing a lot of meetings in Korean, and all the politeness levels. I think I mastered them on a pretty good level. So so basically there are levels to fluency, right? You can be fluent in day-to-day life, but if you want to have a professional meeting talking about the difference between supercapacitors and batteries and explain the technology behind supercapacitors in Korean, this is like a little bit of a different level of fluency. Or you need to talk about like fuel cell and usage of fuel cells in drones, and you need to consult on exhibition about the difference between different types of fuel cell technologies. Well, that's a really kind of deep domain expertise type of fluency, right? So I would say, I think it also fluency comes from real life exposure and using of the language. And I always say fluency comes from lifestyle change. But in this podcast, I hope that the first takeaway that you'll have is that you need to first target the conversational level, of course. You can't target the fluent level. Fluency takes years, right? But conversational level doesn't have to take years. And I mean, on my program, I pretty much see that, especially like some clients who apply everything that I say, they in 3 to 6 months they achieved the level that took me 1 year or 1 year and a half to achieve in terms of speaking, in terms of reading, in terms of grammar knowledge, and so on and so forth. Just because I break down things to the core, and it's so simple to understand if you have simple explanations. But if you study by yourself, you just waste a lot of time. So this is what pretty much happened to me. Every time I was self-studying, it was kind of a time waste. I don't say that self-study doesn't work. I just say that self-study, when it's boosted with good explanations, with regular classes, regular practice sessions, this is much faster. I practice what I preach. I took courses and classes for every single language that I learned. I never purely self learned any language. Starting from English, Chinese was my second language. So for English, I had one-on-one tutor. For Chinese, I took 3 full course. I had a Russian Chinese course in university in Russia, basic Chinese course. Then I took 3 semesters of just learning Chinese in China. And then for Korean, I took 3 or 4 courses for learning Korean. And I'm still learning, and I'm still learning every single day, because there is no limit to learning, right? The more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know something. So learning never stops. But the thing is that at the beginning, you need to target conversational level, because conversational is when you can literally go on a date and speak the language for unlimited number of hours. And this is what I call maybe textbook 2-2 in Yonsei or 3-1, and this would be just an amazing level, and I want you to target it as a result of listening to this podcast. 3 years ago, I had a call with one person, and they just wanted to join my coaching program. They couldn't join, but I said, listen, I'll give you an advice. Finish 1-1, 1-2, 2-1, 2-2 Yonsei, and if this will help you to just, break the ice and start speaking Korean. And they did it. It took them a very long time. It took them like 3 years to do that. I'm like, if you join my program, you can do it in 6 months. But I mean, like, it is still the right thing, and they're still maybe faster than most people. So basically, the textbook approach is the approach that I recommend to do, combined with classes, with some coaching sessions, and with a clear structure and clear goal setting. So yeah, and some people will be attacking textbooks and asking about their materials. Oh, what about this? What about that? My answer to that is very simple. Just evaluate your materials in the following way. Ask yourself, can I actually take an exam, topic 2, topic 3, or 4 or 5 or 6, after finishing these materials? So that's the most important thing. That's what I want you to ask yourself. In comments down below, you can list the materials that you're using. And if you want to join my coaching program, click the link down below. We're opening new Korean groups. It's called Korean Accelerator. And thank you so much for listening. I hope that it was really helpful, and I'll see you in my next podcast.